team.
With affordable housing becoming the top buzzword in India's real estate, today we put the spotlight on the country's slum capital, Mumbai. To find out how will this city provide affordable homes to its vast population living in illegal, unauthorized chawls in poor living surroundings. Welcome everyone, I'm Manisha Natarajan. Before we begin, consider this, the state of Mumbai slums. In the first official survey which was conducted by the government in 1956, it was found that only 8% Mumbaikars lived in slums. Guess the number today. 5.2 million or 42% of Mumbaikars live in slums. Those living in slums are not officially poor. Well-educated, middle-class people deprived of housing or adequate housing are also living there. So today on Urban Reality, we ask three big questions. Number one, why have Maharashtra's slum rehab policies not yielded the results, despite the fact that the Chief Minister himself is the chairperson of the Slum Redevelopment Authority? Number two, will the Maharashtra government's new housing policy help at all? The government of Maharashtra has formulated a comprehensive and a very ambitious housing policy. Action plan is to provide 1.9 million houses, of which 0.8 million or 80 lakhs are supposed to be in Mumbai for low and middle income groups. What are the plans to implement it? Finally, will private developers fulfill the affordable housing need? So far, progress here has been limited, despite the fact that Mumbai is amongst the first cities in the world that has adopted a market-dominant model to redevelop slums. And let's begin. Rahul Nahar, MD Zerbia Developers, joins us. We're also joined by Rohit Poddar, MD Poddar Developers Limited, Anshul Jain, MD India Cushman Wakefield, and Niranjan Hiranandani, MD and co-founder Hiranandani Group. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining me. Mr. Hiranandani, I'm going to start with you first. You know, you really can't talk about affordable housing in Mumbai without focusing on Mumbai's slums. So let's ask that big question. 2 decades, yet the slum rehab policy has simply not given the results that one desired. Why?
The answer is very simple. The kind of policy that we created was one of the best in the world. I think there was no fault of policy. But when it came to execution of this policy, I think it's been a big mess. So what has really happened is that the political interest and the interest of people who are middlemen in the whole system has actually created a huge problem, and politicals on the ground levels, anti-social workers who have really taken kingpin out of that has created quite a mess. However, there is silver lining, because we do see islands of excellence where redevelopments have taken place, so the model is successful. Second, we needed to have a much more stronger policy in terms of those people who come in the way of such working. So there are lots of people who want such schemes to be stopped for their own pecuniary interest. Some of them could be local people, some could be local politicians, and a large number of people who come into the way and act as impediments. Unfortunately, neither the SRA nor the government nor the courts have been strong enough to do it, though some court judgments in recent times have been quite strict in the case of cooperative societies where individuals have come in the way. A similar kind of position needs to be taken by the courts and or government and or local authority in order to make it happen. So the answer is yes, we have failed. Manisha, you are 100% right. We have not been successful, but no, not that it cannot be done. So I think a stronger implementation policy at the grassroots level is going to be helpful.
And there have been cases, Rohit, where there are private developers who have actually ventured into it and done it successfully on the FSI model, which is the market-related model. It's just a question of whether it's politics and vote bank which is stopping it, or is there some hesitancy amongst private developers themselves to take on slum rehabilitation and slum redevelopment?
I think the questions are actually interlinked. When you have a policy that doesn't allow ground level clearance to happen efficiently, and you have various elements that basically come in the way of that, then corporates will obviously be hesitant to actually get into the space. So I think if you actually have a policy where you, like Mr. Hiranandani just said, a policy that allows you to clear a particular slum in an efficient fashion, taking a holistic view of the development and taking all stakeholders into consideration, then you'll have...
You've never ventured into it.
Actually, we have 5 currently. We've actually just cleared our first one, which is in the Diamond Garden, Chembur.
Okay.
We have 4 more that we are clearing as we speak. I think that we got in because we got news of the fact that you can get an LOI directly now without having to go through the Annex 2 process.
All right.
And there's a new GR that's coming out, apparently it may have just come out, that you can in effect get clearances in place, and based on the land size or based on the number of tenements on the property.
So you're saying that you have more confidence now?
Most certainly. I think the policy is acting as an enabler now than not one that didn't work at all.
What about you, Rahul?
I think policy is a good policy. I don't see policy as a problem.
But would you get into it?
Yeah, we're already doing slum projects. We already launched a project recently, which was a slum rehabilitation project.
Okay.
I think the capitalization of developers is a problem, since slums take a lot of time to clear, and it sometimes stretch over a period of 3 to 5 years, and you need very deep pockets to basically bring the project from the ground level, clear the slum, and to launch it. Sometimes you need a very high level of capitalization.
Okay.
So I think the problem is capitalization, and also banks normally do not fund slum projects,
and that is a big problem.
That is a very big problem.
That's a very big problem.
Yeah.
Here you have a whole big mission, for the first time. Of course, there have been many slogans in terms of housing for all, but here you have in 2015 Mr. Modi saying this is going to be a mission and an agenda, and at the center, Anshul, there's so much being done. Affordable housing status, infrastructure status to affordable housing, FDI 100%, interest subvention, name it and you've got it on a platter, right? So now look at it in totality and say, can Mumbai become slum free, and can you really have adequate housing for the poor to the middle class?
I think that's a very ambitious statement to say, can Mumbai be slum-free? But having said that, I think from the policy level, I think government's done a lot on the supply side, right? So whether it's various schemes around taxes and so on and so forth. On the demand side, the question remains as to how the mortgage finance be funded, particularly for people who are under a small income category, let's say under 12 lakh rupees income under the Pradhan Mantri's Awas Yojana, right, effectively. And are the banks developing models to fund these? And once that starts happening, and once you see the construction kind of on the supply side, the construction coming off the ground, I think definitely you'll see people wanting to move out into better quality housing. That's number one. Number two also is when we're looking at slums. I mean, traditionally, as you rightly said, a lot of people who are in the middle income bracket choose to remain in the slum because there's no alternative. I think mentally, there needs to be a mental shift about not living right bang in the center of the city, because at the end of the day, the pricing that we are talking about, there'll be some SRA projects which will give them the opportunity to live in the center of the city, but at the end of the day, the mass housing is not going to happen in the center of the city. Right. So it's going to move out. It could be at the edges of the metropolitan area, or it could be just outside the edges of the metropolitan area. So more important is how does that connectivity works from those areas into areas where people can come and work. And right, those are important things.
That's the connectivity part of it. Sure. But let me come back to the funding part of it. I think, the government feels it's done all that it could, Mr. Hiranandani. There are banks which are saying, look, we are very, very interested in funding affordable housing. Now, the nomenclature of affordable housing itself is now a big question mark. We've heard a lot of noise around the area which has been defined as affordable housing. Slums are a big part of it as well. help me understand, I mean, at the end of it, what should be defined as affordable housing? Is there a big question mark on the area of 30 square meters, and that does not include the slum redevelopment at all, and therefore should not be part of it?
No, Manisha, it's not like that. We have to understand that the definition has got two parts to it. One, which is being defined by the central government in the Finance Act, which is very, very clear, that says that for Mumbai and Delhi, the affordable housing will be 30 square meters carpet area, and in the case of the rest of the country, which includes Thane, Navi Mumbai, and the peripheral areas of Mumbai in that respect, will be 60 square meters, and the rest of India is going to be 60 square meters carpet area.
Right.
I think the 60 square meters of carpet area in the country is a non-issue. I think it's a perfect figure that has come. But the 30 square meters in Mumbai in terms of affordability from a size point of view is debatable, and I don't think it's correct. From a price point of view, because the pricing is very high, I think the government thinks that Mumbai and Delhi should not have large houses in the affordable segment, or you cannot have it. But the problem there is slightly different. I think the policy in this respect should have been 60 square meters, even for Mumbai and Delhi as an aspirational model, because there are areas which are in slums, which are in other areas, and there I think the larger area, 60 square meters, can be done. But look at the other failure which has taken place. Dharavi, which is being driven by the government of Maharashtra themselves, have not been able to take off that project even for the last 15 years, in spite of the fact that an earlier Prime Minister's grant project has sanctioned 100 crores of rupees as seed money to take off that project. Even the contractors and developers are not able to do it, and the government doesn't come out strongly in terms of policy of how it's going to be acted upon. As differentiated from that, look at the place, forget China. China is autocratic, but even in a country like Singapore, the entire redevelopment took place with Housing Development Board, or HDB as it is popularly called, and went ahead very, 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 very successfully. So I think here it's not only the private developers who have failed, Manisha, it's also the fact that government itself through its agencies have not been successful, and there I think is a very sad plight, because in areas where they have no issues in terms of any personal interest of any developers, even then the local people have been able to see that there is a failure to the project. So I think we do need to look at all the nitty-gritties at the ground level and make these projects successful, and we need a very strong arm of government to be able to make it the policy work.
All right.
And I think it is possible to do so, but it's not happening.
All right. So let's take a break, gentlemen. When we come back, we will move from slums to the broader affordable housing segment that even the developers are now running for. I mean, everyone needs to change their business models, because you just look at the inventory overhang in Mumbai, you will not be able to sell high-priced homes. In fact, Knight Frank report says there's an inventory overhang of 80 months in this city. So affordable housing, it has to be. Is the ground prepared and ready for developers now to deliver affordable houses in large numbers as needed? Stay with us. Welcome back. On Urban Reality today, we put Mumbai city under the scanner to ask some very basic questions. What can be done to provide adequate, livable, affordable homes to Mumbai citizens, 40% of who are living in the slums? I'm going to come to you, Rohit, and ask you, lots has been done now at the national level. You've got interest subvention, you've also got infrastructure status for affordable housing, and so on and so forth. And of course, all those details will come up on the graphics here on the screen. My question to you is, you have been doing affordable homes even before that. So what has changed? How has the environment become better for you to now get into it more aggressively, deliver much larger numbers of affordable homes?
The approval process is still a state-driven process, and until that becomes more simplified than it already is, and really a single window clearance, that's been asking for now for years.
So that's not happened.
That hasn't
At
happened
state level, that's not happening.
It happened in different. It happened in other states, like for example Rajasthan, Gujarat, Telangana, UP. I'm told as well. It hasn't happened in Maharashtra as of now.
Okay.
So when that happens in Maharashtra, and we hope it happens soon, we've been hearing, just news articles and sort of information from Mantralaya about it happening imminently. Whenever that happens, you'll have a plethora of projects actually being launched.
But we have a situation, Anshul, where even Mr. Hiranandani and Mr. Raheja are all looking at this segment now. They're saying, look, this is where the demand is and we have to reconfigure our businesses to get into that segment. Will they be able to do it? I mean, if approvals are still such a challenge in MMR, then that itself becomes a Herculean task. Add to that bank financing. Who will want to do it? So, and RERA.
Look, there's a definite change of business model and how you approach the business model, because affordable housing is not about margins. It's actually about speed of construction and the speed of sales, right? If you're delivering something at the right price, the speed of sales will be there. But can you construct and develop and construct fast enough to get the products out of the door? And to Rohit's point, I think to that extent, the government will need to simplify and cannot delay, because every day's delay basically eats into the thin margins that one has. Because affordable housing is a volume game, it's not a margin game.
Right. So are you feeling the same challenge, Rahul,
yeah, I think,
for Zerbia? I mean, so 40 to what is the range of the homes that you're launching in different locations?
See, Exerbia basically develops homes starting from as low as 7 lakhs to, if you consider Mumbai, up to 80 lakhs.
Okay.
So, but the basic thing is that it is very difficult to change the business model for any developer, especially over the period of time if he is developing for 20-30 years in luxury segment. And if that developer wants to go into affordable, it is a total shift. And the mindset, the organization down the line will not be able to cope with it, because it's a total different business. Since I was doing some projects in luxury initially, but this business is totally different.
It is a different animal altogether. So are you feeling a bit nervous about it, or do you think that now, if the approval processes are taken care of, is bank funding a problem for you? Do you think funding is an issue?
No. I think BJP government has done a commendable job in terms of policy approvals, and I think in a couple of years we'll see the results of it. I think the job which government has done in last 2 years, I think it's the best job ever. And the fruits of it will be seen in the coming months. And I don't think funding will also be a problem to affordable housing, especially, if your model is right and if your organization is ready for delivering the product. I think funding will not be a problem, because anyways they have given infrastructure status now in this budget. So I see there
shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. All right. Mr. Hiranandani, you have had some second set of rules being notified for RERA in Maharashtra. And I think the biggest worry I hear from developers is that, look, this whole market is moving to buyers not coming in at early stages, but buyers really buying a ready-to-make product, which essentially means capital becomes extremely important, approvals become extremely important. So despite all these grand plans that Maharashtra government has announced, housing policy, we will have so many low-cost affordable housing in Mumbai, do you feel that organizations such as yours, which have been basically doing premium housing to luxury and super luxury, will get into affordable, sir?
I think there will be no choice really. As the segment changes and the incentives for affordable housing increase and the demand for affordable housing increases, I think everybody will have to get into that segment. And ultimately, I do believe that a large part of the business segment will be in that segment. So as Mr. Nahar says, that he has already been able to understand the economics and the working of that, Mr. Hiranandani will have to learn from Mr. Nahar how to do that segment very quickly in order to become successful. So we look forward to leadership in this segment from people who have already done successful models. And it'll be really good to learn for us.
What about rental housing? I mean, there's this, today we had Mr. Naidu turn around and say, look, we're going to be introducing national rental housing policy soon. So there's this huge debate about really, should you be building, should private developers be building homes, or should the government be building it and renting it out for the migrant population, and really those who even can't afford to buy a 10 or a 20 lakh product?
Yes, of course, rental housing will come by. There is no doubt about it. It has happened in the commercial segment. There's no reason why it can't happen in the residential segment. So it will happen, and it's already happening, except that it's not corporatized. A large number of my house buyers have bought a second house based on the fact that they want to give it on rent. So lots and lots and lots of them are going for second and third apartments in order to give it on rental. The only thing is that the corporates and developers haven't taken it up because the schemes and the policies of the government, local authorities, is actually disincentivize rental housing from taking place. For example, the income tax rules now say that if your apartment is vacant and you have not sold it, then you're going to be charged on a notional rental value. Now, this is ridiculous. If you want rental housing to come up, you can't have such stupid income tax laws which are actually detriment to keeping these apartments waiting for the purpose of getting a rental model. So I think many times corrections need to be done in order before you get these new schemes off the ground, including rental housing to be done. But one thing is certain. This segment of affordable housing shall grow. Okay. Irrespective of whether big builders, small builders, indifferent builders, government sector, etc. The Prime Minister is determined. I think incentivization is only a part of the story, but the drive is going to continue. And I think ultimately that is a segment where the demand does exist. There is a lot of potential in the demand. The only thing is that the stupidity of the local authorities of increasing land prices and also increasing the additional FSI costs is actually contradictory in terms to affordable housing policies. So somewhere down the line, the governments of the day actually create policies which actually disincentivize affordable housing. Look at your ready-reckoner rate being increased.
Absolutely.
In part of my complex, we are selling at 20,000 rupees. The ready-reckoner value shows 27,000. So I'm going to be questioned by the income tax. Why am I selling it so low? Right. I mean, these kind of ridiculous statements coming in from the ready reckoner is quite ridiculous and needs to be corrected.
Absolutely. I think there is still a little bit of disconnect. I mean, Mumbai on one side talking about affordable housing, on the other side saying, look, property taxes are likely to go up by 1%, ready reckoner rates are going to be revised. There's a disconnect between these two as well. But I think we can conclude that everyone has to get into this business. This is the big pie and this is doable, right, gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay, absolutely. We're going to conclude there. It's a good thought. Mumbai or cities without slums, 1 million homes a year, har parivar ko ghar, new phrases are invented every day. And we have a panel here which is saying that, look, this is time now for action and not cribbing, and the government has to fall into line, take away all the impediments and make this possible. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining me. And to all my viewers, I'll be back next time again. Soon going to be presented in the Parliament, National Rental Housing Policy. We just touched upon that today. But as the draft comes out, that's another big debate on how can rental housing in India take off. But that's for another date. Goodbye from me. I'll see you same time again next week.